All right, let's get to the big one, Krystal.
You guys have been waiting on this one. At least I've been waiting to talk about this one because I actually do think it's a really interesting story. Whoopi Goldberg, okay? Over on The View, they were having a conversation about this graphic novel called Mouse that I guess was pulled off of a reading list in a school, I think in Tennessee.
It was in Tennessee, yeah.
And it's about the Holocaust. So they're having this discussion about this. When Whoopi drops some very questionable historic or ahistoric remarks about the Holocaust, let's take a listen to how that went.
Well, also, if you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
Ethnicity.
It's about
a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about.
But it's about white supremacy. It's about
but
going
it's
after
not. It's
Jews
not about
and
race.
gypsies
But these are two
Romans.
white groups of people.
Well, they were after black
They
people
didn't see
too.
them as white people.
And they were
But you're
after
missing the
homosexuals.
point. You're missing the point. The minute you turn it into race, it goes down this alley. Let's talk about it for what it is. It's how people treat each other.
She was about to say between white people.
Yeah, that was the part that I actually found the worst, is when she's like, this is between two groups of white people, so it's between y'all. So, of course, this goes over like a lead balloon. Everyone reminds me, the Nazis definitely thought
I was going to
they were
say, I don't
engaging
think
in a
the
racial
Nazis thought
program
they
here.
were white people. They
Right.
definitely thought it was a racial thing.
They definitely, their whole master race, that was the whole deal. They, they even looked to the U.S. Jim Crow regime for inspiration of how to execute their own racist regime. So, ahistoric, she's right that it's also about man's inhumanity
As much of racism.
That is definitely, that's what racism actually ultimately really is. Okay, so this doesn't go well, obviously. There's a big outcry, people are freaking out, and so she goes on Colbert
that so let's put that tweet on the screen.
to try to clean this up. We would show you the clip, but we'd get copyrighted.
Colbert, stop being so annoying about copyright.
Super irritating. So she starts by trying to say the right things of like, I get it, I hear you. But then when it becomes very clear that she doesn't actually, her mind has not been changed. She really sort of sticks with her original point. She said Nazis, quote, had issues with ethnicity, not with race, because most of the Nazis were white people and most of the people they were attacking were white people. So to me, I'm thinking, how can you say it's about race if you are fighting each other? So ultimately, after a pretty long discussion, it's very clear that she still really is sticking by her original point. And the more she talks about it, the more you realize that she really sees race within, what is kind of the typical American construct of black versus white.
Yes.
And in fact, that is the primary, obviously we have all kinds of different people of all sorts of backgrounds here in this country, but throughout history, the primary binary has been between black and white, and that's where, the legal codification of discrimination is based on that matrix. And so she is thinking and continuing to assert, if I can't see the skin color difference between two groups of people, then to me it's not racism and it's not race. So she doesn't do a very good job ultimately cleaning this up, not to the satisfaction of people. And let's go ahead and put this next piece up on the screen from Rolling Stone. So then they feel like, all right, we got to suspend her, which is obnoxious. ABC News, and they put out this very patronizing statement about, well, Whoopi has apologized. I've asked her to take time to reflect and learn about the impact of her comments.
Come on.
I know. And then the last piece, let's go ahead and put the Daily Beast tear sheet up on the screen, is that her co-hosts are really pissed off that they ultimately suspended her. Multiple sources tell the Daily Beast that her co-hosts, Sunny Hostin and Joy Behar and Anna Navarro, are all furious with the network's decision here. So I think the easy part first, which is that obviously the show, we don't believe in canceling people and censoring people and all of this. A lot of this is, I'm not saying her comments were correct. They were obviously ahistoric and ignorant. But this smearing of her as a blanket anti-Semite is also ridiculous. It's not like she denied the Holocaust. It's not like she was like, actually, the Holocaust was a good thing, or those Jews really deserved it, or she's saying this was a really bad thing. She obviously had some ignorance around the sort of dynamics, the racial dynamics that were at play. But to suspend her over this is ultimately, to me, a sort of theatrical show and really silly.
Oh, I'm with you. This is just good old-fashioned boomer ignorance. And, it's like one of those things where I'm like, okay, yeah, Whoopi's an idiot sometimes. I mean, if we were going to suspend people from The View would never exist for saying dumb, ignorant things on their program. Yes, cancel the show if this is part of the standard of what you're going to say. I thought it was ludicrous that she was suspended for it. I mean, look, she came out with her fake apology, all of this. It's clear to me her mind has been rotted by critical race theory and by a lot of this stuff.
I actually, in some ways I feel like this is kind of a silly and semantic debate. We're going to have Freddie DeBoer on. He had a good piece about this. He's like, whatever you want to call it, like the point is the 6 million murders. And so what is race? Race is a system that human beings constructed as a form of like putting this group above that group. It's pretty arbitrary and invented.
Racial hierarchy, yeah.
Yeah, it's in a hierarchical way. And we had our version of it here, which, as I mentioned, was primarily this black-white dynamic, which is what Whoopi grew up with and what she sort of has in her mind when she thinks of this is what race is. Ultimately, though, I mean, all of these ideas are invented by human beings. So I do find it a kind of semantic debate over, was it racism? Was it not racism? I mean, I think we can all agree, yes, the Nazis obviously thought they were engaged in a racial project. But does someone deserve to be like kicked out of the public square and, shunned and suspended for 2 weeks because they, in their mind, were thinking, well, this was at its core about man's inhumanity to man? Well, that is true. It is about man's inhumanity to man, but that's also the core of what white supremacy and racism is about. And she missed that there are other racist dynamics that can be at play in other contexts than just black versus
That's
white.
how I saw it. I saw it as like privilege protection. It's like, but we, this is about racism here. That is about something else. So to try and compare the two, it's like, no, they're actually pretty similar.
Privilege protection, that's a good way of putting it, because there is like a sort of defensiveness. It's another thing that Freddie writes. She has this sort of like territorialness.
She's like,
over
no, our suffering was very specific in its own
What real
thing.
Racism is about skin color.
Yeah, right.
This was something else.
It's something else. It's not.
Which, I mean, I take issue with that. But again, I think suspending her over it is ultimately.
Oh, look, I don't think she should be suspended. Like I said, if you're going to suspend Whoopi, then you have to suspend all of them for saying ignorant, stupid stuff on The View at all times. It's just a ridiculous way in which we conduct ourselves in public. Also, this is fake. We all know it's fake.
Oh, these people
They're
aren't
suspending
really
her
mad.
for 2 weeks because they wanted to go away.
And
it's
so
not
much
real.
Of this, too, is just like, people looking for a reason to pretend that they're outraged.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people were gunning for her, trying to get her canceled just because they didn't like what she said about, look, I can't stand Whoopi Goldberg. I can't stand The View either. But look, whatever, okay? It's like, why do we have to go through this song and dance?
It was interesting, too, because after all of this happened, they did a segment on Rogan. And they actually sort of like half defended him.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if their position would have been different had they not been facing their own
well, they have.
sort of cancellation.
They called him a transphobe
situation
in the past, saying he shouldn't be allowed to moderate. So now their little eyes open.
I've also found it interesting that there are some mainstream figures who would be the type to trash Rogan, call for censorship, and lots of other people too besides Rogan. But they're going to bat for Whoopi. They know her heart. She's not an anti-Semite, et cetera, which I agree with. I mean, listen, I don't know Whoopi Goldberg. I don't know if she's an anti-Semite or not. But to just take these comments and smear her as some sort of like deplorable, irredeemable racist is completely absurd.
Do you see what Al Franken said?
He
said she can't be an anti-Semite because she chose Goldberg for her last name.
He would say something like that.
Okay, Al. Case closed. I'm not even saying she's anti-Semitic, but that's got to be the stupidest defense I've ever heard in my entire life. So
listen,
anyway,
if you're in the public,
free Whoopi.
With a little bit of like humility, let's just say that if you are on TV, if you're in the public eye for a long time, you're gonna say some shit that is not good.
How long have we been doing this? A couple years, 3 years?
Yeah.
So 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, roughly for 3 years. That's oh God, you guys are almost 1,000 days, roughly, give or take. So like minus the weekends, that's like 800 days times 2 hours. That's thousands of hours.
And she's been doing The View for how long?
And she's been doing this for 35 years.
I mean, gotta have some understanding of sometimes people are gonna say some dumb shit.
It happens.
You know,
right?
and the part I actually found the saddest about it is if you listen to the whole Colbert exchange, which is pretty interesting to listen to the whole thing and how she's clearly like, she's hanging on to that. No, the real racism is black versus white. But at the end, rather than saying, I get it, and I understand why I was wrong, and so I'm gonna take that into account in my commentary going forward, she says, I'm just not gonna talk about it anymore. So, I mean, it's very clear if you watch it, she has not changed her mind. She still sort of stands by her point. Instead, her response is just, I'm not gonna say shit about it anymore. And I find that kind of sad because I actually think, even though her view is, ahistoric, I actually think if you did have a long discussion about this and it's an uncomfortable topic and you had people who were experts and who could talk from a historical perspective and who could talk about the histories and origins of race and racial constructs and what that meant, if you had the space to do that, that would actually be a worthwhile and interesting conversation that I think people could get a lot out of. But instead, what the response is, first of all, you could never have that conversation in a show like The View because it's just too stupid and you don't have enough time to do it. But instead, what the response is from our culture is, you know what, I'm just not gonna touch that topic anymore. My mind hasn't changed. And I'm not delving into like the complexities of it that are obviously uncomfortable for people. Instead, I'm just going to not say anything about it, which is kind of a sad response.
No, that's the wrong way to go about all this. So congratulations, cancel culture. You win again.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.